Well, happy Friday to you. Seems like every week swings by so quickly, I can't believe it. So it's Geospatial 2.0 Friday talk time, and today we're going to be talking about, are you ready for tomorrow? I like to start these talks with a quick review of the thoughts of the day. Actually, one of them isn't a thought for the day, but it could have been. So there's a couple here. I actually saw. I don't generally read industry reports. I think they're overpriced, and I don't think they're that accurate, to be honest with you. But I did pick up on this one. It was an advert for it. Somebody asked me if I read it. No, I didn't. But I noted the word integration in this, and I'm very intrigued, particularly in my work within Critigen about this notion of integration. And we do a lot of integration, but integration is a term that I don't know is really well understood, but I sometimes use the term geo-enablement. But they're talking here about the integration, how the integration of CRMs and ERPs, enterprise resource planning, and other business systems has helped drive the GIS and geospatial marketplace. So I picked up on that, and more to come on that topic, but that was a good one. I pose careful to. I don't really like putting things that have a sort of a political connotation, but it seems like anything now that isn't political gets a political connotation. COVID has, for some reason, it's a health question. Climate change has a political connotation. I really don't know how that happens. I won't go into why I think it is. I have good reasons. I have good ideas of why it is. But Greta Thunberg is amazing, an amazing girl. And I think that the speech that she made, I don't know if this week or last week, was phenomenal. And I put a link to the video to watch that. She's just incredible girl, and what she said at that was exactly right. We hear lots of blah, blah, blah from the political leaders, but no action. My point in posting that in a geospatial way is that we in the geospatial industry we can help drive some of the solutions to this problem. We have the data, we have the analytical tools, so we're key to this, to reversing climate change. So I like what she said. I agree with, obviously, I always think, I won't go into climate denial, but watch that. It's an important video. We have a big place to play in climate change, the climate change conversation. So the urgency of this talk actually is driven by, and I showed this last week, this is the geospatial thought of the day: waiting for the world to understand what we do and the value of what we do is not an option anymore. That relates back to Greta, that relates to what I'm going to say in this talk here. So let's drive on. Geospatial 2.0 at its core, people have asked me, is it 2.0, is it 3.0, is it 4.0? It's an increment. Geospatial 2.0 means it's the next phase. So I like to call it that, and it doesn't need to be 2.0, it can be whatever, but it means the next phase. But that requires us to advance our thinking and to advance our actions. We can't stay where we are. We have to move forward. There's the 2.0 piece. So let's talk about advancing our thoughts. I've mentioned this before. We've got to move from a map first mindset to a data first mindset. We don't attack problems thinking first about how we can map that. We think about problems in terms of what data do we have to bring to bear to solve that problem. It's a very different perspective. If we start with a data first perspective, that's multidimensional data, 2D, 3D, 4D. The platform and the output, how we visualize that answer to that question, has no relevance as we start the exploration. We limit ourselves if we start with a map-centric approach. So we have to start with a data-first mindset. We also have to move from a technology-first mindset, and that's Kevin Costner, Field of Dreams, I've mentioned that before. If we build it, they will come. To a problem-first mindset. And if you've not read The Lean Startup, it's a very fascinating book, and some of the offshoots from that about how we actually discover problems, test out solutions to problems, iterate there, build MVPs, etc., etc. So we have to start really with that lean startup approach. So that's how we advance our thinking. Now, I've spoken a lot about technology innovation. I've used this picture multiple times. We're in a phase of change. We're in a phase of innovation technologically, driven by new sensors to collect data, of multidimensional data, new analytical methods such as artificial and machine learning. So we've got a lot going on. There is a lot of innovation going on. There are an incredible number of smart people that are working and driving innovation in the areas of technology. Now I've called this kind of business innovation. I don't think that's the right term. I'm really thinking about outcome innovation. And I think, and I'll cover this in more Friday talks, we've got a lot more work to do here. So the first piece I've put there, first bullet point and there's many, I'm going to show two, is significant pain points we've actively discovered. Pain points is important there. Not something that's nice to have, something that transforms something. Something has real value. That's a pain point. And then the other piece is the actively. So instead of the place where folks come to us with a problem, we actively discover. Again, more on this in a future talk. And how do we articulate the solution? In fact, how do we articulate the whole thing? How do we tell stories? So, we have a world out there that doesn't understand what we do and doesn't understand the value we bring. That's this outcome innovation piece, and there's a ton of work to do, like I said there. So are you ready for tomorrow? My suggestion is that most are not. So what do I think, what I see is missing? I think on the technology side, there's a lot of innovation going on, but it's how we best pull those pieces together. So that question of are you ready, it means modernization, it means due enablement, it means data. It means how do we pull all those pieces together to actually be able to connect those dots, to go from a problem to solving a problem using technology. We might have these disconnected pieces out here that are very innovative, but how do we connect those pieces? So I would argue, and again, for a future conversation, that assessing where we are and moving what we've got in place forward as that foundational piece, and I'll use that word many times. Do we have the foundation? And you'll hear me use I always like to use the analogy of house building. There's a lot of work to be done before you start constructing a house on the foundations. A lot of work. It'll be hopeless if you build a house without a foundation, because the house would fall down. So the groundwork has to be done before you start building the house, designing the rooms and putting the furniture in there. That's the foundational stuff. And I think that there's a lot of work that still needs to be done in understanding where folks are and where folks need to be to actually have that foundation built to start doing the other pieces. So there's a technology piece that people need to be ready for. There's the outcomes piece, and I've used that word evangelize, and I just mentioned a minute ago, most people don't understand what we do. Most people don't understand the value of location-based data. So how we engage with clients and users. Clients, if you're a company and you're looking to build clients, how are you engaging with those guys? And if you're in an organization, you have internal users. A lot of those folks, and I've mentioned it in other talks, the business folks, the senior leaders in an organization, you may have lots and lots of data, but those guys don't necessarily understand the importance of the GIS department. They're still seen as the mapping department. So there's evangelization on the outcomes piece, and there's the connecting the pieces and building the foundation on the technology side. And those to me are the core pieces of actually Geospatial 2.0. That's how we have to move things forward, is to actually explore and solve these two particular areas. And I always finish with this diagram, because I like this diagram, because this diagram encapsulates what I think is at the heart of Geospatial 2.0. It's telling stories with data, presenting that data in a way that can be understood. It's multidimensional data, and it's telling a story. And in this case, again, I may have used that before, but we have to take an analog workflow. This is what I do day to day, and convert that into a digital workflow. In this case, this was collisions, and how traffic safety engineers can understand and diagnose problems that the collision-based problems in cities, for example. So telling those data-driven stories is huge. So I always finish with that note. That's me. That's my email address. I always say I love your feedback. I love your input. Tell me if what I've said is right or wrong. Any other thoughts that you have, and we'll do it again next week. Have a lovely autumn weekend.